G'day, it's Rob here again. Well, I'm really excited on this review. This is something I've been waiting for a little while, not long. They got to me pretty quick, but it's something that I'm just itching to get out the box and get my hands on this and see what it's really like. And as you know, I'm a big fan of brazing, you know, bronze brazing and silver soldering even, and it's fantastically useful for model engines and model making and, you know, any small fine work. And I've got a bullfinch torch you would have seen where I do brazing. But this is something else again. This is something I spotted on Banggood's site. It's a big box, and what it is, H160. It's a hydrogen oxygen torch. It's an electronic device that splits water into its basic elements and make a really hot flame equivalent to oxyacetylene in effect. This is for small work only, but the temperatures are incredibly high, and if it works as it should, this can actually even cut through steel. So this is a pretty amazing thing. Here's some screen grabs on what's in the box. I can't wait. It looks to be well packed, and here's a plug converter for Australia, some instructions. So yeah, now it's a matter of get it out the box and have a good look at it. Let's do it. And here she be. Some bits and pieces here. Bottle of electrolyte, a torch, a funnel, all looking good. Yeah, it's a big unit. Got a fan at the back. Oh, it's got an Australian plug, look, so we don't even need an adapter. Perfecto. Yeah, no dents, everything's intact. That's great. Really good. This is yeah, this is awesome. So yeah, the way these work is they basically just use electricity, 240 volts, to split the water that you've put in the tank here with some electrolyte, produces the gas, and then the gas comes out and goes through this bubbler here, which you use to prevent flashback, if there's any flashback from the gun. And then it's got a safety blow-off valve as well. So that's good as well. You know, if there is blowback, it will stop here. The liquid in here will stop it from going back into the machine and potentially have an explosion, you know. So this looks good. And also by varying the liquid you put in here, so you can vary the flame temperature, get the maximum temperature with water. If you're putting something like methylated spirits, you'll drop it down some hundreds of degrees, and if you put in acetone, you'll drop it down a lot further. So you can use this to avoid melting whatever you're using the torch on, remembering that the torch is capable of putting out some incredibly intense heat. You know, we're talking hydrogen and oxygen, extremely hot. Okay, let's check out the bits we've got in the bit of polystyrene here. So here's the electrolyte, which would be caustic soda type electrolyte, potassium hydroxide or sodium hydroxide. They're very similar. This is probably potassium hydroxide. They're both very corrosive, they're alkaline. Here's our power converter for the plug, but we don't need it because it's got an Australian plug on it, which is really good, really good. Here's our little torch with a tip on it. And then you get another tip, which would be a different size, I expect. Yeah, they look to be different. This one's a bit bigger. And if you want to go bigger again, you could make one up or buy one or even drill it out. So yeah, we've got two options. Then we've got our instructions with some hose to hook the torch up to the bubbler. So the first thing to do will be to read the instructions. Hopefully, oh, they could be Chinese, I'm not sure. But anyway, even if they are Chinese, there's plenty of instructions on the internet on how these things work, and it's a pretty simple process really, the whole thing. It's pretty straightforward. So I'll take these out and have a read and see what happens. With the hose you get 1.5 metres of hose, so that's okay. And with the instructions, it's all Chinese. Now this covers 3 models. We got the H160. As you can see, it's all Chinese. But the bit we want is here. That basically shows you mixing in the electrolyte. Actually, it's back. I mean, they show pouring the electrolyte into the water, but I've always been taught that if you ever use this type of stuff, you should actually mix the water with the electrolyte rather than the other way around. That way there's less chance of a violent reaction. So I personally would put that in something and then tip in the required amount of water. Now, on here it says how much water. So 1 litre for this model, and I presume you use all of that. I'll try and read this with my translation app on my mobile phone and see if I can get any sense out of it. If I can't, I'll basically go with some other information I've got to see what they reckon. I see this figure 15%. 15%. I think that could be, yeah, that could be the mix ratio. But then again, I've seen other ratios that say 30%. So yeah, I have to do a bit of research. Shows here how far up the water level should go on the meter, on the level there. And it shows how much liquid you put into the bubbler. You half fill it by the look of it. And then the rest of it's all pretty straightforward. Yeah, it looks like it's got a voltage selector on the back. We'll check and have a look. The voltage is not selectable, it's single voltage, 200 to 240 volts AC, and as I said earlier, it's even got an Australian plug on it, standard, so that's good stuff. I'll check to see if it's earthed, and that'll make it even better. So, is it earthed? Well, let's give it a continuity check and find out. Yep, it certainly is. No problems there. The hose hooks onto the torch and also the bubbler, and it's just got these little screw up pressure rings, so you unscrew them, push on the hose, and then screw them on, and they put the tension on it. The handle is aluminium. The whole thing is good, no plastic at all. It's really good quality, and that screws on. It's really nice. This is aluminium. Now, I had a problem with this. I couldn't
move this knob. It was so tight, and I had to use a spanner, 7/16, undo this tightening ring here, nut, unscrew it, screw out the valve, and then retighten it. That basically, it was just seized up. It was too tight. So if you have a problem, yeah, just undo that nut a bit, screw out your jet, and then retighten your nut, and then just screw in your valve, and everything will be fine after that. It was just whoever put it together overdid it somewhat, but yeah, it's really good. Also, the jets, the two jets are the same size, absolutely. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to drill one out bigger. Well, if it goes to plan, I'll run a very fine drill through and drill the second one out bigger, so that'll give me two flame sizes, because they increment these on other kits through from 0.6 of a mil, 0.7 of a mil, 0.8 of a mil. So you can step up to about 0.9 of a mil even. So yeah, that gives you that option to play around. So now we'll get on and do the electrolyte. The ratio of electrolyte is 15%. The tank takes a litre of distilled water. It will hold 1.6 litres, but you only put in 1 litre. So that means that with that ratio, you have 850 grams of distilled water, and you have 150 grams of the electrolyte. Okay, pretty straightforward. When you do this, use a glass container or plastic. Don't use ordinary steel, because I mean, you know, it's demineralised. Stainless steel is okay, and mix it with either a glass rod or a plastic rod or a stainless steel rod. I'm using a stainless steel rod, and you can see it's all dissolving. Also, it'll cause a thermal reaction when you put the water in there on it, so it'll have to cool down. So leave it for about an hour to cool down to room temperature, and then you can put it in the tank. That's all there is to it. You can see the water levels at that point there, so it looks about right from what I can gather. I've half filled this bubbler with distilled water, so now we'll put it on. It's got a line on the side where you should go to. And the doves are in full cry today. Pesky bloody things, eh? She's all good. She's good to go. Okay, power on. Wow. Look at the amps. Plenty of amps. There's no pressure gauge on this, just a blow-off valve. So. Yep, something's coming out. This electrolyte ratio is spot on, and as you can see, the unit is pulling damn near 4 amps. So this is what you want. If your electrolyte is weak, you know, if you're using some substandard electrolyte and it's not carrying the voltage, your amps will be back here somewhere. So that ratio is pretty damn good. I don't think you do much better than that. When the unit gets to the required pressure, it'll shut itself off. And when the pressure drops, it will turn itself back on. So basically you just turn it on and forget about it, and it will just keep within its pressure range. So it'll shut off, you watch. There you go. Now we turn it on again.
turn on the torch and it will kick in again. There you go. She's back on again. I could measure the gas pressure, but I'll just take the hose off. So there you go. There's plenty of pressure there, baby. Okay, she's going. The flame is almost invisible. Whoops, there's one out there. Let's see what it does to the bottom of a steel can. See, things are pretty hot. Burn straight through it. Oh, better turn it on. That would help, wouldn't it? Running out of gas. Now she's pumping up again. Some very intense heat there, but it's very localized. You know, you would have trouble brazing with something like this unless it was very small. There's that grab you. Let's try it on a bit of steel fencing wire. Once again, you know, it's a matter of how you're going to apply this sort of heat. Very hot. When you move in, you can just see, look. Pretty impressive for what it is. I actually tried brazing with this to see how it would go on this side's job, and you can see it sort of melted the bronze, but it was losing a lot of heat. So even though the temperature was extremely high, the actual number of BTHUs that were there was low, really. It's fine for pinpoint accuracy work, but anything this size is too much for it. You have to be, you know, working on stuff smaller than this. I wondered if it would do, say, you know, brazing carbide tips onto small boring bars, but it would be too much for that. This tip is definitely too small. Now, the actual unit puts out plenty of gas. It easily would do a bigger tip than this. But I mean, these tips are specifically designed. You can't just drill them out and put more gas through, because they'll try to burn back up through the neck of the torch. They're specifically shaped. You can get 0.6, 0.7 and 0.8 of a millimetre tips, and they would be a lot bigger than this. Banggood also sell a torch which has got a whole range of tips, sort of a deluxe model, and I might see if I can get that from them and review that. I think that would be certainly a big plus with this unit, because the unit itself has got stacks of bloody gas, and you know, really to do more with it than really fine jewellery work, which is what it's meant for, you're going to have to get some suitable tips. So yeah, I think that additional torch set that they're selling could be the answer. But as a unit, I mean, it's got some mumbo. It really just put the heat out. It's just that, yeah, the flame is very, very pinpoint. For jewellery, fantastic. Anybody making jewellery or doing rings or things like that, fine detail work, this is a great little torch. But if you want to do something more at the model engine size, no, it's not going to be any good with this tip. You're going to have to go to something which puts out more of the same, you know. So yeah, it's a great little oxy hydrogen setup. It's simple, it's foolproof. The flashback arrestor does work, because I managed to get it to flash back on me twice when I played around with this spare tip. I actually did drill it out to get more gas through it, and it was a fluffy, soft flame. So, you know, the actual way I did it was no good. So don't bother even trying that. You need the specifically designed jets on these sort of applications. But it flashed back twice, and each time this blow-off valve did the job. The bubble container stopped anything going back into the generator, which could have been catastrophic. So, you know, the whole thing works very, very well, and it is quite safe, I think, as it is. I'm looking forward to Dex doing more with this, because I really want to do larger work that I think this is really jetted for. So yep, if we can get the additional torch that Banggood sell, it'll be really interesting to see how that goes. But certainly for the money and what it can do, this is an excellent unit. As I said, yeah, volume of gas, no problem whatsoever, and yeah, not very expensive really for what it is. It's done exactly what I expected. And I think we could screw a bit more out of it with the right handpiece. Okay, that's it from me. See you next time. Cheers.